Lupita Manana, Chapter 11. The next morning, Saturday, Señor Ferencio came once more. Ana Consuelo climbed into the truck's cab, and aching Lupita got into the rear with Salvador and Elvio. The same 5 harvesters were there, and Elvio talked and joked with them all, sometimes in English, but mostly in Spanish. When there was a pause in the conversation, Lupita ventured to speak to the woman across from her. "Señora, remember what you said yesterday? I would like to go to Mass tomorrow, but I do not have a dress." The woman's voice came out of the darkness. "Your aunt has daughters. Wear one of their dresses." Elvio chuckled. Skinny as she is, Lupita is too big for their dresses. Then he added, "I suppose she could wear one of Mama's, but no one would be able to find her in it." Elvio fell on his side laughing. "Salvador, is your mother fat too?" While Lupita's face burned in embarrassment, Salvador said curtly, "No." Then he asked, "How do we get to church?" "Uncle Ferencio takes us there in his truck," Elvio replied, still giggling. "We'll go out in it tonight, too." "Tonight?" "Si, after supper he's taking Caterina and me to the movie in town." "Elvio, you should take your cousins from Mexico with you," the woman on the other side said. "But we will not understand anything," Lupita protested. Elvio chuckled. "Don't worry, Lupita, you will understand what the actors say. The theater where we are going to has films in Spanish. I will ask Uncle Ferencio if you can come." Lupita felt her brother's hand and squeezed his fingers. He returned the pressure. They were going to the movies! In spite of her stiffness and sore hands, Lupita's spirits lifted as the dawn approached. See, she would buy another dress and shoes to wear to church as soon as she could. The dawn sky was a pale rosy pink. As the truck jolted along, Lupita dreamed of a rose pink dress. She would buy pink ribbons for the ends of her braids, too. Harvesting the remainder of the summer squash crop was no less tiring than it had been the day before. Her shoulders, back, and hands ached when she stopped for lunch, and they hurt even more by the end of the working day. Traveling from Tijuana had made her dislike Brussels sprouts. Now she hated summer squash as well. As they rode home, she vowed that she would never eat this queer green vegetable either. Caterina had supper almost ready when they returned. Consuelo smiled and asked her, "Are you helping tonight, so I will give you money to go to the cinema?" "Of course, Mama," Caterina replied impishly. "Where is your father?" I don't know. He went out again this morning with the man who lives next door." And Consuelo nodded. "Then we won't see him until tomorrow, I suppose. Bueno, I'll rest on the sofa tonight and listen to the music on the radio." Suddenly she touched the shoulder of the child nearest her. "How does that suit you, Aurelia, to listen to the radio?" Aurelia said nothing, but looked mournfully at her mother. Lupita understood. Aurelia wanted to go to the cinema too, but was afraid to ask. "Salvador and Lupita are going to the movies with us. They said they would pay their own way," Elvio reported. "What did Ferencio say? He did not mention it to me." "He said okay." "Okay," Lupita echoed the English word in her mind. "It only means sí," Caterina told her, reading the question on her face. Lupita hesitated a moment. Then, looking at her brother, she asked, "Will it be dangerous for Salvador and me to go to the cinema?" "Don't worry. Go. If La Migra comes, say that you are Joe and Maria Ruiz from Texas. Go to church as Joe and Maria, too," Consuelo advised. Lupita pointed to the shirt and trousers she wore. "Will they let me inside in these?" Everyone but Salvador and the youngest Ruiz cousin laughed at her question. "Don't worry about the cinema and how you look," Elvio replied. "You should see how some of the rich gringo girls dress. They look worse than you do." All at once, Lupita became aware of Aurelia looking at her serious as ever. On an impulse, she said, "Aunt Consuelo, may I take Aurelia to the cinema with me? I will buy her a ticket." Aunt Consuelo chuckled, reached out to Aurelia, and yanked at one side of her long hair. "See, Aurelia can go then. Would you like that, Aurelia?" "See, Mama." After a swift glance at Lupita, Aurelia buried her face in the folds of her mother's skirt. Though Indio by night was brightly lit, Lupita found it little like Tijuana and much like Colton. Except for the sounds of traffic, there was not much noise. Senor Financio parked his truck behind the theater and led the way to the ticket booth. His white-haired wife accompanied him. He bought tickets for both of them, and then Elvio, holding Salvador's and Lupita's money, bought tickets for the rest. They all sat together on the ground floor and watched a story Lupita already knew. It was the old Mexican fairy tale of the Queen of the Clouds and the Witch. Lupita had told it many times to her little sisters and brothers, but watching it now made her forget her aches and pains. Aurelia sat between Senor Financio and his wife and did not take her eyes from the screen once. The next morning, Lupita sat down to write a letter to her mother. The house was empty and quiet. Everyone had gone to church. Uncle Emilio had not returned. Lupita wrote slowly and carefully with a pencil stub, trying to give the impression that they were welcome and had found good jobs. It was hard not knowing what Elvio had written earlier. After Lupita signed the letter with words of love, she folded a $10 and a $5 bill inside the paper. Then she put the letter into the envelope, sealed it tightly, and addressed it to Ensenada. She placed 4 $1 bills on top, money for Uncle Emilio to register it tomorrow. When she was through, she went outside to sit on the front doorstep and enjoy the morning sunshine. Lupita looked at her black-rimmed, broken fingernails resting on her sweat-soaked trousers. How her appearance would shock Mama, who worked in a crisp yellow jacket in Senor Aguilera's beautiful hotel. When Salvador and the others came home from church, Senor Financio, his wife, and a liquid-eyed, black-haired boy, a bit taller than Salvador, came into the house with them. The young man was elegantly dressed in black trousers, black high-heeled boots, and a black and purple jacket with gold-colored satin sleeves. In one hand he carried a gleaming brown guitar with a long scarlet cord and tassels. "That is Lucio," Salvador told Lupita quietly. Once Senor Financio and his wife had sat down on the sofa. Aunt Consuelo asked him to have coffee with us, and Senor Financio stopped and bought cakes for everyone. "Who is Lucio?" Lupita whispered, staring at the finely dressed youth. "Senor Financio's grandson. He studies in a school to be a mechanic and works at night as a dishwasher in a cafe." Salvador's eyes were fixed on Lucio. "He plays the guitar and sings. Today he played the guitar in church." After they all had coffee and pink frosted cupcakes, Aunt Consuelo requested that Lucio sing something. He picked up his guitar and began to play. Lupita soon felt disappointed. Though he had a good tenor, he sang only gringo songs, and Lupita couldn't understand them. She looked around to see if Salvador felt the same way, but he was listening raptly. After a while, Lucio asked what people would like to hear. When everyone had made a request, Lupita asked, "Por favor, play La Paloma." I'm not sure how to pronounce that. La Paloma. "It is my favorite." No, not that old one," Lucio said coldly. "I am tired of it." Lupita shrank back. He had played La Golondrina for Aunt Consuelo, another old song. Now he started to strum another tune, which prompted Elvio and Caterina to get off the floor and start a queer sort of twisting, arm-waving dance. When Senor Financio and his wife rose to leave, Lupita saw Lucio motion his finger to Salvador to follow him outside. When Salvador returned, he looked happy, happier than Lupita had seen him in a long time. "Lupita, I think Lucio Ruiz is going to turn out to be a friend to me." Salvador was grinning. "You should know, Lupita, that he doesn't like the name Lucio. He asks me to call him Lucky from now on." "What does that word mean, Salvador?" "I don't know. Elvio?" Salvador called out. "What does lucky mean in English?" "A fortunato. That's close enough." "Do his mother and father live here in Indio also?" Lupita asked. Salvador laughed. "They live here, but Lucky does not live with them." "He lives with Senor Financio, then?" "Not him." Salvador smiled strangely. "Lucky lives with other pochos he knows, friends of his. One of them plays the trumpet and another the guitar. Lucky said that he only came to church today to please his grandfather. He would rather have stayed home and worked on his car. He's going to have to borrow his grandfather's truck to take his sweetheart to the Gringo movie tonight." Salvador looked at Lupita intently. "No one goes with them to keep them company? The Gringo way with sweethearts is to be alone?" "No one goes with them," echoed Lupita, astonished. Salvador shook his head in admiration. "Ah, these pochos. Lucky says he will come get me next Saturday night in his car. It will be fixed by then. I told him about Captain Ortega and Dorotea, and he said that kind of thing would never happen here in the United States. He said Dorotea is a prisoner, and that should not be. He said if Dorotea had any courage, if she had truly loved me, she would have run away from her father and come with us. He says that it doesn't make any difference if the girl's family is rich and the boy's family is poor here. Love is all that counts. Stunned, Lupita leaned against the wall. Lucio certainly said very much to you, Salvador. See, he talks fast. He made friends with me right away. He said he was glad to see somebody near his own age in the back of the truck. Lucky promises to try to help me. He told me that things would turn out okay for me if I listened to him. Okay, Lupita repeated. She was tempted to call her brother's new friend Lucio Manana, but that would only have made Salvador angry. After a moment, Lupita said, But Salvador, you do not have the fine clothing to go out with Lucio Ruiz. Salvador shrugged. Lucky says a pocho who lived with him and his friends joined the army last month. He left some of his clothes behind to be given away. Lucky said the pocho was my size, so he's going to gather up the clothes and give them to Senor Venancio for me. Someone else's clothing? Lupita recalled Salvador's reaction when she had begged in Tijuana. This was also taking charity, wasn't it? Salvador pointed to Papa's black and white coat, which he had flung over the back of a chair. That's someone else's too, Lupita, he said sharply. But it was Papa's, Lupita cried, shocked. Rather than argue in front of the Ruizes, she turned her head and headed outside. At the door, she looked back ruefully at her brother. He was not coming after her. He sat hunched over at the table, angrily drumming with his fingers. All at once he said to the room at large, Lucky told me that working in the fields is the worst kind of work he knows. When he was just a kid, he went there a time or two, but he didn't stay with it. His father got a good job as a janitor in a school, and afterward nobody in his house went to the fields again. He said that kind of work is for old men and women with kids. And wetbacks, Elvio added. How like Elvio to make that remark. Lupita went outside and shut the door behind her on the laughter of the Ruiz cousins and her brother's fury.